People of the State of Michigan versus Lawrence Mills. Case number 20 F56947. Mr. Mills is charged in count 1 with homicide, murder, first degree, premeditated. Count 2, assault on a pregnant individual causing miscarriage, stillbirth. Also calling the people of the State of Michigan versus Lawrence Mills. Case number 20 F57150. Mr. Mills is charged in count 1 with assault with intent to murder. Count 2 is a misdemeanor. This is the people of the State of Michigan versus Lawrence Mills. Case number 20 F56808. Mr. Mills is charged in count 1 with homicide, murder, first degree, premeditated. Can I have your appearances, please?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Ashley Chaffone on behalf of the people.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
James Anderson on behalf of Mr. Mills on all 3 files.
Thank you. Mr. Mills, can you please state your name for the record, sir?
Lawrence Paul Mills III.
All right. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Chaffone, can you hear me?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. So today's the date and time set for in-person preliminary examinations. Are the parties ready to proceed?
The people are ready to proceed.
Your Honor, I have one preliminary matter. Your Honor, I understand these 3 cases are called. I understand, I believe it was agreed that we were to take testimony on all 3 cases. However, they still remain separate cases until such time there's a motion to consolidate that I understand probably will be coming in the circuit court.
Is that correct, Ms. Chaffone?
That's correct, Judge. Just for the exam.
All right. So these cases are all separate. However, we'll take the testimony of the witnesses. Well, we're going to start with the case ending in 808, which is the 1 count of first degree premeditated murder.
Judge, would it actually be possible to start with the assault with intent to murder? I have a civilian witness present on that. And so if the court would allow, I was going to put that case up first.
Okay. So how do you want the court to proceed? Do you want to call the witness on that case? Oh, wait. There are statements that were provided by Mr. Mills, and they all
apply to each case.
Okay. So we'll just.
So,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Judge. I was going to see if the court would allow, if I could knock out my civilian witnesses. If we get to the end of, or knock out the witnesses.
We need you to speak louder, Ms. Chaffone.
I said I was going to try to get through my my witnesses that are there in person, and then any additional kind of witnesses that might be or evidence maybe kind of push to the end. So if the court would allow, I was actually going to put Officer Krzyzewski or Detective Krzyzewski that's present there, my officer in charge, last, and put the statement in last. And I hadn't talked to Mr. Anderson, but I'm not sure if he would be agreeable to the court viewing that on the court's own time. If we put up Detective Krzyzewski, asked him the necessary questions, and if we got to an end point today, give the court a copy of the DVD, which is about an hour and I want to say 19 minutes. And it's all relevant, nearly all of it, and have the court view that at a later time, if we got to the point where we were almost complete today.
All right. How many witnesses do you anticipate calling today?
Today, I would have, I would say, so I have 1 on the first case, and then I have 2 on the other 2, 3. So I anticipate being 4.
Okay.
My complainant, my officer in charge, actually 5, 2 evidence techs, and my officer who put in the video. So 5 total.
All right, very good. So are there any other preliminary matters as it relates to this, Ms. Chaffone? You'd like that the officer in charge remain in the courtroom during the proceeding?
Yes, I would ask for an exception for my officer in charge.
Any objection, Mr. Anderson?
No objection. I simply still have a bit of a concern as to these cases have not been separated. At the end of the proceedings, we will end up with a mixture of three cases, which I think might put me somewhat at a disadvantage, but those matters probably would have to be sorted out by a circuit judge.
I mean, the only other way that I can think that we can proceed is she can call her civilian witness on the first case, admit the statement on the first case, and then I take everything under advisement until I'm able to listen to it. And that way we can have separate records.
Very well.
All right. So perhaps we'll have to proceed that way where we'll just conclude a case with the admission of the statement, and then we'll come back for the court's ruling after I've had an opportunity to view the statement.
Very well.
All right. So the court will grant the prosecution's motion sequestering witnesses. The officer in charge will remain in the courtroom. We are live on YouTube, so I hope no witnesses are observing during this proceeding. Ms. Chaffone, who would you like to call first? We don't hear you.
Was I muted, Joe? Oh, at this time, the people would call their first witness, Miss Rachel Perez.
Is there any way that you can turn your volume up just a little more?
Yep, I will do that now.
Okay. Ma'am, if you can please just stand right here and raise your right hand. Yes. You swear or affirm that the testimony you'll provide will be the truth? You're going to have a seat right next here. There's a microphone to the right of you. You can grab it and put it in your lap. I need you to turn it on so that the red button is lit. All right. And we'll need you to speak into the microphone loudly and clearly so that we can all hear you.
Okay.
All right. The prosecutor is going to be asking you questions from the screen. So after she's concluded, then you'll have questions asked by the defense attorney. But Ms. Chaffone, you can proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us your name?
Rachel Perez.
And Ms. Perez, I want to bring you back to the date of December the 22nd of 2017. Do you remember that date?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to take you to the time of approximately 2:30 a.m. Do you recall that time as well?
Yes.
Okay. And on that date and approximate time, were you in the area of Lauderdale and Campbell?
Yes.
Is that in the city of Detroit?
Yes.
Is that in the county of Wayne?
Yes.
And why were you in that area at that approximate date and time?
I was working at the time.
Okay. And when you say working, what do you mean?
I was a hooker.
Okay. And since that time in 2007, are you still employed in that fashion or that manner?
No.
Okay. And how long have you not been?
2 years.
Okay. And on that date and time, approximate time, did you come in contact with any other individuals?
At that time of day.
That night, about 2:30 a.m., did you come in contact with anybody?
No. Just the guy.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
And you said the guy.
Just the man.
Okay.
Okay, and you said the guy. Is there an individual present in the courtroom who you recall seeing back on December of 2017?
Yes.
Can you point to that person, tell us where they're seated and what they're wearing?
The guy over there on the right, and county jumpsuit.
And Judge, I'm not present in the courtroom, but based off of her description, I believe she's identified the defendant in this case, Mr. Lawrence Mills.
She has the witness, the record will so reflect the identification.
Thank you. And was December the 22nd of 2017 the first time that you had seen Mr. Mills?
No,
Okay. How many other times would you say you had seen him before?
I had seen him one time before that day.
Okay. So when you saw him on December the 22nd, 2017, did you immediately recognize him as someone you had seen before?
Yes, I recognized the car.
Okay. And what type of a vehicle was that, if you recall?
It was like a tannish or gold Jeep, like an SUV.
And what was your arrangement with the defendant?
Exchange cash for sex.
Now, how did you come about to be with the defendant? Was it a phone call? Did you see him or something else?
I just seen him, he pulled up on me.
Okay. And is the area of Lauderdale and Campbell, is that in Southwest Detroit?
Yes,
Okay. Now, when you first see the vehicle that you said you recognize, does it pull up to where you're located?
did he pull up to where I was located?
Yes.
Yes,
And did you get into the vehicle?
yes.
Okay. Can you describe for us what happened next?
After that, he told me what he wanted, I told him how much it would cost, and then he gave me the money, which was around $40. And then we had sex, and he was one of those kind of people that just took unnecessarily long. You know what I'm saying? If you're in a car, it should be short, rather than if you were gonna take a really long time, you'd wanna get a room or something, because you have a better chance of getting caught if you're in a car, just parked on the side of the street somewhere. So we had sex, and like I said, he was taking unnecessarily long. I did tell him that I had somewhere to be, that I gave him $10 back and was like, here, because I have to go. And that's when I got out of the car, but we conversated for a minute. And I told him that I was pregnant, I had just found out I was pregnant, and that I was planning on leaving, like going to rehab, and, cause I had just, maybe like 3-4 weeks ago, found out I was pregnant. And I told him we conversated for a minute, and then I proceeded to get out of his truck. And that's
And let me
when-
stop you. When you say he and him, are you talking about the defendant still?
Yes,
Okay, sorry, continue. So you go to get out of the vehicle and what happens?
yeah, I let you get out of his vehicle, and then I proceeded to walk around the back of his car, and he backed up and almost hit me. I didn't know that it was probably intentionally, but he almost hit me that time, and so I started yelling, like, hey, you almost hit me, you know, what's your problem, blah, blah. So then I continued to walk, I got on the sidewalk and started walking towards 4th Street.
And what street were you on?
Main road. Say that again?
Which street were you on at this time?
I was on Campbell.
On Campbell headed towards Fort now, you said? Did you say you were on Campbell headed towards Fort?
Yes.
Okay, and what happens then?
I was on the sidewalk, and then I was walking towards 4th Street, and then I heard his tires squeal behind me, and before I could turn around, he hit me full speed from the back.
He being the defendant?
Yes.
What happens to you at that point in time?
Well, I flew in the air, lost the shoe, and I was on the ground, but like then, you know, my body went to like fight or flight mode. So I started running, I got up, I started running, trying to make it to 4th Street where maybe there would be anybody. But before I could reach 4th Street, then he backed up and then he hit me again, full speed from the back.
So let me stop you. When you're saying he hit you, what did he hit you with?
His car,
Okay, and you said you were walking on the sidewalk, is that correct?
yes,
Did he being the defendant, have to do anything with his vehicle to hit you where you were at on the sidewalk?
what do you mean?
Did he have to drive onto the sidewalk too?
Yes,
Okay. And both times that he hit you?
yes,
Okay. So both times he hits you, he drives up onto the sidewalk and hits you from the back, your back. Is that correct?
Your Honor, I object, I don't think that was testimony. I think the prosecutor said both times that he hit you, he ran up on the sidewalk. I thought he only did that one time, on the street, or maybe I misheard.
All right, Ms. Perez, did you get struck both times that you were struck, were you on the sidewalk?
About the second time, I don't know if I was right on the sidewalk. All I know is that when the first time when he hit me and I flew in the air, I don't know where I landed. You know, I could have landed in the street, I could have landed on the sidewalk, I'm not sure. But wherever I landed, I got up and I started running. So I could have been running down the middle of the street, I don't remember.
Okay, good thing.
Thank you. Now, after that second time that you got hit, what happened then?
I was down. I was laying on my back, wherever I was, in the street, sidewalk, I don't know. And then I saw him back his car up and park it. It wasn't like parked perfectly. Yes. It wasn't like, it was just parked any old way. And then I was looking and I saw him get out. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh my God, this is how it's gonna end. Okay, he's really gonna do it. And then that's when he walked up to me, I was laying on the ground, because I couldn't get up after that. And then he robbed me.
And when you say he robbed you, he being the defendant?
Yes.
And when you say robbed you, describe what he did.
Say that one more time.
When you say he robbed you, describe what he did exactly.
What he did exactly, he told me to give him all the money that I had.
And did you do that?
Yes,
Okay. And what did you give him? Money?
yes.
Okay. How much, if you recall?
It was probably like $30.
Did you give him anything else other than money?
No,
Did he ever touch you to go into your pockets or your purse or anything like that?
no.
Okay. So after the defendant comes up to you and tells you to give him your money, what happens then?
I gave it to him, and then I don't know why he took off, but he left. After that, he got in his car and took off.
Could you see which direction he, being the defendant, traveled?
No, it was Campbell, he went that way. I
Okay.
don't know what the side street was.
Would that have been towards Fort still?
No,
Or
no,
a
he
different?
was going, not the opposite direct, not towards Jefferson, but going like this way, like, I don't know what the side street.
So a side street nearby Campbell?
Yeah, going towards, Junction.
Okay. And at the end, I'm going to show you a map and have you take a look at that and identify and see if that maybe helps you identify the location or the direction. But at this point, after the defendant drives off, where are you?
Still laying on the ground, on, Campbell.
What's going through your mind when this all happened with the vehicle? How were you feeling?
I was in a state of shock. It might have took me a minute to get up, but I eventually got up. And because I didn't know if he was gonna return or what was gonna happen. So I got up and I went to the closest building, which was the Campbell building, which was across 4th Street. And I went inside and I was in like a state of shock. Like I couldn't believe what happened. Because you hear about these things happening, you know what I'm saying, in my line of work, what I was doing at the time. You hear about women getting killed and women getting raped and all these terrible things. But you don't really, it doesn't register until it happens to you. You know what I'm saying? I had heard about like, a couple other women getting killed, like previously, like earlier that year.
I'm gonna object. I don't understand the relevance of this testimony.
All right, your response, Mr. Combs?
I would agree, Judge. We can move on.
Sustained.
Thank you.
Just allow her to ask questions. Go ahead.
Ms. Perez, did you end up having to go to the doctor or the hospital as a result of your injuries?
Yes,
Okay, and did you go that evening, if you recall, or early that morning?
yes, I went like maybe a little while after it happened.
Okay, and where did you go, if you remember?
To, I believe it was Hutzel, or maybe I went down to receiving and they transferred me to Hutzel because I was pregnant.
Okay, and did you have any injuries that you received treatment for?
Yes, when I went to the hospital, I had 4 broken ribs. He knocked out half of my front tooth. I had a head injury, but the baby thing, I was perfectly fine.
You said the baby was perfectly fine?
Yes, and then that's when I found out I was actually 8 months pregnant.
Okay. Now, after this incident, do you see the defendant again?
No,
Okay. Now, did you have to receive additional treatment after you received treatment that evening or early morning?
no, I was in the hospital for like 2 weeks.
Okay. And Judge, if the court would allow, I would like to screen share an item,
All right. You may.
and it is People's Proposed Exhibit number 2. And I have provided that to Mr. Anderson. Is the court able to see my screen?
We are.
Now, Ms. Perez, do you recognize the area that's being shown on the screen in People's Proposed Exhibit number 2?
Yes,
Okay. And what do you recognize that area as being?
that's Southwest Detroit, over by 4th Street, Junction, Jefferson.
Okay.
Lover.
And does this fairly and accurately depict that area as you know it to be? Is that how you know the area to look?
Yes,
Okay. Judge, at this time, I'd move for admission of People's Proposed Exhibit number 2 into evidence.
Any objection, Mr. Anderson?
No objection for that purpose, so.
All right, People's number 2, map of Southwest area will be admitted.
Thank you. And now, Ms. Perez, do you see the area in which this occurred? Are you able to see it, or is it too far away?
yeah, it's kind of too far away. Like if you can zoom in a little bit.
Too far away? Did that zoom in for you? Ms. Perez, are you able to see it a little better now?
Yes,
Okay, and do you see the area where the incident occurred?
yes,
Okay. And would that be at the Lauderdale and Campbell area?
yes.
Okay. And does looking at this map help refresh your memory about which direction the defendant traveled after he hit you and drove off?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know what street that would be, or which direction that would be?
Lauderdale towards Junction.
Lauderdale towards Junction. Okay. Judge, may I just have one moment?
You may.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
All right, cross-examination, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. Ms. Perez, I have some questions for you. If you don't understand the question, you'll let me know and I'll rephrase it, okay?
Gotcha.
You indicated that this incident happened December 22nd, 2017. Is that correct?
Correct,
And that was quite a while ago. Is that also correct?
correct.
Back then, did you write down anything to refresh your memory as to what happened?
No,
Did you review any statements before coming here to testify today?
no,
So the testimony that you are giving today is based upon your memory of events that occurred back on December 22nd, 2017.
correct,
Very good. Now, you indicated that this was not the first time that you had seen Mr. Mills, but you indicated that you recognized the car.
correct.
Is it that you recognized the car, but did not recognize Mr. Mills both times? Or
No,
are you saying that you recognized Mr. Mills both times?
yes.
The first time you saw him, did you have any conversation with him?
It was a little bit, like that conversation. The only thing I remember about the conversation from the first time I ever talked to him was that he told me he was a cop. That's the only thing I remember, like, from the first conversation that I had with him ever.
Do you remember if you were on foot at that time? I'm talking about the first time or not.
Wait, can you say that again?
The first conversation you had,
Right.
were you out in the street on foot?
No, I was in his car.
So the first time you got in his car,
Correct,
did you have conversation about having sex?
correct,
Did you have sex that first time?
yes,
Okay. No problems with that at all,
No.
right? Okay. He didn't try to run you over or anything like that?
no,
Okay, when was the second time that you saw him since, after the first?
it was the time of the incident on December 22nd.
Okay, what I'm getting at is how long from the first time to the second time?
Oh,
Days, weeks, months?
it could have been a month or two.
Okay, and is part of why you might be having a problem that you were a drug abuser back during that period of time? Not saying you are now.
No, what kind of
About
problem?
About back then.
What kind of problem?
Drugs.
Oh, yeah,
Okay. And you agree that from then to now, that might affect your ability to recall things?
no,
You don't think so?
no,
You indicated that the second time that you met, he pulled up to you.
correct,
You were on foot that time as well?
correct,
You was working as you described, correct?
yes,
And you indicated that will you tell me, when he picked you up, were you off of 4th Street in Campbell?
yes,
And while you were there on 4th Street in Campbell, is that where you had a conversation about how much and what the exchange was for?
yes,
The type of sex, whatever?
yes,
Okay. Now, it appears that, well, after you had that conversation, did you drive somewhere?
just right around the corner to where we was at.
So you didn't go farther than 1 block?
No, we went past a little bit down the, Campbell.
A little bit down Campbell, did you go to Lauderdale Street? Did you get to Lauderdale Street?
Yes,
So that's about 2 blocks away, right?
yeah,
Okay, and is that when you got out of the car at Lauderdale Street?
yes,
And you've indicated that he gave you $40, and because the sex was taking so long, you had to go, you gave him $10 back, right?
correct,
You didn't tell him anything about you being pregnant then, did you?
yes, I did.
When you got out of the car, which way was the car facing
When I got out
on
of,
Campbell?
It was facing towards, cause when we were parked on Lauderdale, facing Junction.
When you engaged in the sex act, you were parked on Lauderdale,
Yeah, facing Junction.
facing Junction. When you got out of the car,
Yeah, backed up.
listen, let me ask the question. When you got out of the car, you went from Lauderdale to Campbell, is that correct?
Correct.
When you got out of the car, were you walking on the street or the sidewalk?
When I got out of the car, I was in the street.
Okay. When you say you got hit from behind, were you on Lauderdale or were you on Campbell?
I was on Campbell.
Okay, so had you gotten to Lauderdale, had you gone down to Campbell, make a right on Campbell and walk down Campbell, is that when you hit? When you said you got hit?
When I got out of the truck,
You got out of the truck, you walked down Lauderdale, you turned right on Campbell, right?
no, I didn't walk down Lauderdale. We were parked at the corner of like where Campbell and Lauderdale intersect.
Okay, but you say his car was parked on Lauderdale,
Right,
Facing-
facing Junction.
facing Junction.
Right.
So would it be fair to say that when you got out of the car that was parked on Lauderdale, you just walked to Campbell and walked right down Campbell?
Yes, I was walking down Campbell.
Okay. When you are walking down Campbell towards Ford, you indicated that's when you were hit.
Right.
Would it have been mid-block on Campbell?
Yeah, yes, between Lauderdale and Hampton.
Correct. And you indicated that this car that hit you backed into you.
No. Yeah. When I first got out of his car, that's when he almost hit me, backed into me.
You say he almost hit you?
Yes.
He didn't hit you, almost hit you, right?
Yes, he almost hit me when I first got out of his car and walked
Okay.
behind his truck to get on the sidewalk to walk down, Campbell towards 4th Street.
So now you're walking down Campbell,
Right,
and you say this car hit you.
okay,
It didn't back into you that time.
no,
It hit you, probably, front bumper. hit you.
yes,
And that's when you say you flew up in the air or whatever.
right,
When you hit the ground, you had not gotten to Anton Street, had you?
no,
Okay. So, and at that time, can you recall whether or not when you got hit that time, whether or not you were on the sidewalk or on the street?
I don't know where I landed after he hit me.
Sorry to interrupt you. Not where you landed. I'm talking about when you got hit, were you on the
I was
street
on, yeah, I was on
or
the
the
sidewalk.
sidewalk? You were on the sidewalk.
Right.
Okay. So you say you landed on the ground, you saw him get out of his car.
That was after hitting the second time.
Okay, the first time you landed on the ground, you got up
Correct,
and you started running.
correct.
How far did you get? Did you get past Anton Street then?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't know how far I got before he hit me the second time.
Okay. Do you know if you were running in the street or the sidewalk at that time?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. When you got hit that second time, you indicated that while you were on the ground, you saw him get out of his car.
Correct,
Okay. You were able to look and turn and see him.
correct.
And you saw him approach you and he said some words to you.
Yes.
Isn't it true? What he told you was, give me my money back?
He told me, yeah, to give him, the only money I had was the money he had gave me.
My question is, didn't he tell you, give me my money back?
No, he said, give me all the money, give me all your money.
Are you sure he didn't say, give me all the money I gave you?
No, because how would he know that all of the only money I have was the money that he gave me?
You gave him $30 back.
No, I
That's
gave
the
him
money that-
$10 back.
No.
Oh, you're talking about this time? Yeah,
Yes. So when he said, give you the money. You gave him the money that you took away from him. I mean, that you had remaining, which was the $30 he gave you.
I gave him all the money I had, which was
The
money.
$30.
Right, correct.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that you then watched him get in his vehicle and take off?
Correct.
And you waited there for a while before you got up?
Not too long, no.
How long did you wait for him to make sure that he was gone before you got up?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. So when you felt the coast was clear, however long that took, is that when you got up and walked to a building on 4th Street?
Correct.
And about what time of morning was it then?
It was like almost 3.
During that time, did you see anybody else out on the street?
No,
When you got to this building on 4th Street, were you able to, first let me ask you, did you know anybody in that building?
yes.
Did you contact whoever it was in the building?
I knew a lot of people in that building, but I went in the building and I seen this girl I knew, she was sitting on the stairs.
Okay. How did you get in the building? Did someone buzz you in the building?
No, I walked in.
You walked in, you saw
Judge, I'm gonna
somebody,
object as to relevance.
I'm sorry?
Judge, I'm gonna object as to relevance, how she got into the building that she ultimately went and reported to people that she had gotten hit, I believe is irrelevant.
All right, sustained.
Thank you.
how long was it from the time you got in that building to the time you received medical treatment?
About 25, 30 minutes.
How did you get to the hospital?
Ambulance,
Did they come to the building where you were?
yes.
Thank you, nothing further.
Can you redirect, Mr. Combs?
Yes, Judge.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Perez, what type of drugs were you using back in December of 2017?
Heroin and cocaine.
You said heroin and what?
Cocaine,
Cocaine. Okay. And although or despite having used, did you use either of those narcotics back at the time of approximately 2:30 a.m. on December 22nd of 2017?
did I use any around that time?
Yes.
No,
Okay. And despite having used drugs potentially sometime that day, did you still recall what had happened to you?
yes,
Okay. And despite having used any drugs potentially around that time, is everything that you testified here to today truthful and as you remember it occurring?
yes,
Okay. Now, are you still using narcotics today?
no,
Okay. How long have you been clean for?
2 years.
Now, the previous time that you had encountered the defendant that you spoke about, what area would that have been in?
It was on 4th Street, and then we proceeded to, I don't remember the street, the name of the street, but it was back in Del Rey, the street over from Cottrell, between Green and Springwells.
Would that have been in the city of Detroit?
Yes, it was in the same area, but like a main street down.
Okay, so still Southwest Detroit, is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay. And the money that the defendant demanded from you, was that money that you two had agreed upon for the sex? Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, and you two did ultimately have sex, is that correct?
yes.
Okay. I have no other questions.
All right, thank you. Mr. Anderson, you don't have any redirecting.
Yes, briefly.
Go ahead.
Ma'am, you indicated that you've been clean 2 years, correct?
Correct,
And this incident happened back in 2017, that also correct?
correct.
So there would have been a period of about a year, year and a half where you were still on drugs.
On and off, not full term,
Well, but the last used, as you put it, was 2 years ago, correct?
correct,
Is it truly your intent to get that money was to use drugs?
correct.
And it's fair to say that after this incident occurred, you went back to being, to hooking
No,
for a period of time.
not right away. I went to rehab actually after that happened.
What kind of rehab?
Drug
Judge, I would
rehabilitation.
object as to relevance.
How's it relevant, Mr. Anderson?
Well, she indicated that she had not been using any heroin or cocaine at the time this incident occurred. Yet now she has said that she had used it and that undergone a period of rehab.
So I think the question asked by the prosecution was specifically as to this time, like at the time that the incident occurred, not necessarily hours before or something like that. So if you have any questions about that, Mr. Anderson, I'll allow it, but I don't
Thank
think, go ahead.
Okay, just prior to you going out onto the street, I'm talking about when this incident occurred, as you run out of drugs,
Yes,
and the reason why you were out cooking that night when we had contact with Mr. Mills was to get money for more drugs.
yes.
Thank you. That's great.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Perez. You are all set. You're free to leave.
Thank you, Ms. Perez. And is she free to go, Judge?
She is.
Thank you.
All right. She is out of the courtroom. All right, so I know, Ms. Chiffon, you want to introduce a statement by the defendant. However, I guess I don't understand, why, with the testimony that we have from Ms. Perez and her identification of the defendant.
We don't need it for this case, Judge. I was just, because it is referenced in the interview, I was just gonna leave it kind of open and apply to this case. But if the court would like, I can move for a bind over based on just the testimony. We don't need it for this one.
All right, yes, I would prefer doing it that way.
Okay, thank you. Judge, at this time, the people have no additional evidence or witnesses to present with regards to this case, and I would make a motion to bind the defendant over as charged in the complaint and warrant. I would reserve my argument for rebuttal.
All right, Mr. Anderson,
After this case, Your Honor, it would be a question for that.
thank you. All right, so the court heard the testimony from Rachel Perez. She testified that on December 22nd of 2017, at approximately 2:30 a.m., she was in the area of Lauderdale and Campbell. in the
Excuse
city-
me,
Yes.
excuse me, Your Honor. I'm so sorry. I hate to interrupt. But the actual sexual act, I don't know that it was ever described what it was.
So what do you want? You want to call her back to ask her that?
Well, no, it's the prosecution's case. Everyone, I'll sit down.
All right, because she's charged with assault with intent to murder in this case.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So, the court heard that she was in the area of Lauderdale and Campbell in the city of Detroit. She was working, which meant that she was a hooker back on a date in time. She said that she hadn't prostituted for 2 years, as of today's date. She said she came into contact with a man who she identified as the defendant, Mr. Mills. She said that she saw him once before that date. She recognized him and she recognized his car. She described his vehicle as a tan or gold Jeep/SUV. She said she exchanged sex for money. and that the defendant pulled up on her while she was working in Southwest Detroit. She testified that she got into his vehicle, that he told her what she wanted, and she gave him a price of $40. She said that they had sex together. It took an unusually long amount of time, and she told him that she had to leave and gave him back $10. She said they conversed for some time, and she told him she was going to be quitting prostituting because she was pregnant. She said she went to get out of the vehicle, and the defendant almost hit her when she walked around the back of the vehicle. She said she was on Campbell heading towards Fort, and she heard the defendant's tires squeal behind her. She said the defendant hit her with a full speed, and that she was on the ground and got up and started running after she was hit. She said the defendant backed up and hit her again at full speed with his car. And she believed he had driven on the sidewalk at least the first time that she was struck. She said the defendant then got out of the vehicle as she was laying on the ground and demanded all of her money, which consisted of $30. She said she gave him back the $30. He then left. He went on Campbell towards Junction, and she went into the Campbell building, is what she described. She said she also went to the hospital, she believed was Hutzel Hospital, and she sustained 4 broken ribs, a head injury, and half of her front tooth was knocked out. She learned at that time she was 8 months pregnant, and she was in the hospital for approximately 2 weeks. People's number 2 was admitted, which was a map of Southwest Detroit where the incident occurred. The witness testified that she did use heroin and cocaine around the time that she was struck. She was using, she hadn't used right prior to engaging with the defendant, but she had been a user of heroin and cocaine. And she testified that the first time she had contact with the defendant, it was sexual, and it was also in Southwest Detroit near Fort Street. Mr. Mills is charged in count 1 with assault with intent to murder. The court finds the people have met their burden in proving by the probable cause standard that Mr. Mills did make an assault upon Rachel Perez with the intent to commit the crime of murder. He will be bound over on count 1, and he'll be arraigned a week from today, a week and a day, which will be January 19th at 9.
Thank you, Judge.
Just 1 second, please. All right, so, Ms. Chaffone,
Yes, Judge.
which case would you like to proceed on next?
If the court would allow, I'd like to do the one ending in 056808. The victim is Miss Melinda Salazar. That's the other one involving a pregnant individual.
I'm sorry, we didn't catch that.
I just said it was the other case involving a pregnant individual. That was the other charge.
We're not hearing you clearly.
Can you hear me now, Judge?
We can hear you, but it's trailing off, it's trailing at the end.
I was just trying to tell you which case it was, but I think you guys already know.
The end of what you're saying is trailing off. I heard you say that you were just trying to tell us which case it was, but then whatever you said after that, I didn't understand.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just said I think you guys knew which case it was already. So
Okay. She thinks we knew which case it was. All right, so we're now on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Lawrence Mills, case number 20-F56947. He's charged in count 1 with homicide, murder, first degree premeditated. Count 2, assault with a pregnant individual causing miscarriage, stillbirth. The parties are both here. Any preliminary matters?
I would just renew my motion, or I'd make a motion to sequester all witnesses. I'd ask for an exception from my officer in charge, Detective James Krzyzewski, who is present in the courtroom.
Okay, so Ms. Chiffon, we're having a hard time hearing you clearly. We'll need you to speak louder. My court reporter is struggling to hear you. We want to make sure that we have a good record.
I would just ask for an exception for my officer in charge, Detective James Krzyzewski, who's present in the courtroom.
All right, thank you. Any objection, Mr. Anderson?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, you can call your first witness, Ms. Chiffon.
Thank you. At this time, the people would call forensic technician Ryan Padzikowski.
Sir, if you can please provide the spelling of your name to the court reporter.
First name R-Y-A-N, last name P-N-J-A-K-O-W-S-K-I.
P-A-J-A.
K-O-W-S-K-I.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll provide will be the truth?
I do.
All right, you're gonna have a seat right behind, back there. There's a microphone to the right of you. Please grab it. It should be on. You can put it in your lap if you'd like.
Is it easier that way?
Yeah. And we'll need you to speak loudly and clearly into the microphone. The prosecutor will be asking you questions from the screen.
Okay.
All right, your witness, Ms. Chiffon.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us your name
Ryan Padzikowski,
and where are you currently employed?
Detroit Police Department.
And where were you working back on October the 16th of 2017?
I was working in the Crime Scene Services Division of the Detroit Police Department.
Okay, and were you working as a forensic technician?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and would you have been working on October the 16th of 2017 at approximately 3:00 a.m. or sometime thereafter?
Yes, I believe I was.
Okay, and did you receive prior to going that day prior to working that day, did you receive training as a forensic technician?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and what type of training did you receive?
I received training I got my certificate in evidence tech handling, I guess.
Okay, and did you
Why is that?
successfully complete that training?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, on October the 16th of 2017, did you have an occasion to go to the location or the area of Casper and Cypress?
Yes, I did.
Is that in the city of Detroit?
Yes, it is.
Ms. Chiffon, can you say those streets again, please?
Yep. The streets of Casper and Cypress.
Thank you.
And you said that was in the city of Detroit?
Yes, I did.
Is that in the county of Wayne?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And would you consider that area Southwest Detroit?
Yes, I would.
Okay. And what was your purpose in going to that location?
I was heading to that location to process this scene of, it came out, I believe, as a homicide.
Okay. And did you in fact do that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And upon arrival, what do you observe, if anything?
Upon arrival to the scene, I observed uniformed police officers securing the scene. It was daylight at the time. I observed the detectives also from homicide that were organizing and were delegating at the scene. as well as I observed a blue tarp covering what I later found out to be a deceased.
Okay. And where was that deceased individual, or the person that you believed was a deceased individual, where was that person located?
At Casper and Cypress, if I recall correctly, it was at the northwest corner of Casper and Cypress on the sidewalk berm / street.
Okay. And what did you do, if anything, to document that scene?
I both took photographs at the scene location. I also generated a report on my actions, my observations, and everything that I did that day.
Okay. And did you have occasion to place any items of any evidentiary value on evidence?
Yes, I did collect items from that location and placed on evidence.
Okay. Can you detail for us what items that you collected at the scene?
Did I detail? I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Could you detail as you sit and testify today? Can you tell us, or do you recall what you placed on evidence?
I don't recall every item, but I did list in my report. I collected items such as DNA / trace swabs, clothing items, a suspected vehicle part, what I believe to be a used condom, as well as the wrapper to it, and I believe a water bottle.
Okay.
To be on the list.
Now, do you have your report in front of you?
No, I do not.
Okay. Detective Krzyzewski, do you have your police jacket with you?
I do have my jacket, but the report is not in it at this time. So I sent him, or I had a report sent to him via email, which he can obtain on his cell phone, in case he would like to review. So there's a copy on his cell phone of the report for him to able to review.
Now, is it officer, or are you also an officer in addition to being a forensic technician?
Yes, I'm currently employed as a police officer.
Officer Krzyzewski, we're looking at the report on your phone. Refresh your memory as to specifically what items you placed on evidence and the tag numbers associated with them.
Yes, it would.
Okay, could you look on your phone for us, please? And then once you have it pulled up, I can ask you a specific question.
Okay.
Do you have it pulled up?
Yeah, I do have it pulled up, yes.
Okay.
Is there a specific one?
Can you take a look and can you let us know what items you placed on evidence?
I placed on evidence on that day and time 14 pieces, including a plastic water bottle, Absol one used condom, one open condom wrapper, it was a Trojan Magnum brand, one pair of ankle socks, white in color, one pair of Nike black / gray shoes, size 7. I also placed on evidence a cell phone, which was the make of Samsung. I also placed on clothing items of a black / white hoodie or zip-up, a ambidextrous green and color glove, trace DNA from curb, and also placed DNA swabs from the right wrist of the victim, the left wrist of the victim, the right ankle of the victim, and the left ankle of the victim.
Did you also place on evidence the vehicle fender?
One more time with that question.
Did you also place on evidence the vehicle fender?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about some of the items you found. Where did you locate, what is the item number of the ankle socks that you recovered?
I don't recall. I need to look at my report.
Okay, could you please look at your report and see if the memory is refreshed? I'm going to have you keep that out by you.
Yes, ma'am. The ankle socks was item number 4.
Okay, and where was that item located?
I believe it was located in the street, near the on-cypher street, near the victim.
Okay, and what about the Nike black and gray shoes? Do you know what item number that is?
And refreshing my memory from my report, it would be item number 5.
Okay, and do you know where that item was located?
Also located on Cypher Street, near the victim.
Okay. I want to ask you about the black and white hooded zip up. Do you recall what item number that was?
Also refreshing my memory from my report, it would be item number 7, as well as placard 7.
And where was that item located?
I don't recall.
Can you look at your report and see if that would
Yes,
refresh your recollection?
This is located on the berm, near the victim.
You said on the berm near where?
Near the victim.
And I'm going to ask you about one other item, which would be the right ankle swab. What item number would that be?
Specifically, the right ankle swab would be item number 13.
May I just have one moment, Judge?
You may.
Thank you. And which item number was the left ankle swab?
Left ankle swab would be item number 14.
Okay. I have no questions.
All right, cross-examination, Mr. Gibson.
Officer, in terms of the bumper that was recovered, do you know if there was any DNA swabs or anything attempted on that item?
No, sir, none that I'm aware of.
And what time, if you can recall, what time of day did you get there at the scene?
I believe I responded at 9:50 a.m.
And would it be fair to say that is that when you commence collecting evidence?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any redirect, Mr. Paul?
No, Judge, none.
Thank you, officer. You're all set. Mr. Paul, you can call your next witness.
Thank you, Judge. At this time, if the court would allow, I'd like to put in some items of evidence, if the court would allow.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Under MCL 766.11B, and possibly by stipulation, I haven't spoken to Mr. Anderson yet regarding the medical examiner's report, which is People's Proposed Exhibit number 2. I would be seeking admission of that under that statute.
All right, any objection, Mr. Anderson?
I am sorry in the sense that I cannot retrieve.
Stand up and
I'm sorry, I'm not able to retrieve that document. I presume if I stipulate to it, Mr. Paul will read in the cause and manner of death.
Correct.
all right, so the court will receive stipulation between the parties as to People's Exhibit number 2, which is the medical examiner's report. Go ahead, Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Judge. The People's Exhibit number 2 is the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Postmortem Report, authored by Dr. David Moons, Moons. He performed an autopsy examination on Miss Melinda, Melinda Salazar, Salazar, on October 17th, 2017. If he were here to testify, he would be qualified as an expert in forensic pathology, and he would indicate that he authored a report and that it was his opinion that the death was caused by multiple injuries. He noted abrasions on the lip, both sides of the chest, the lower abdomen, lower back and extremities, a cluster of contusions on the right lower arm, and internal fractures of multiple ribs on both sides, multiple lacerations of the lungs, spleen, and liver with extensive bleeding into the chest and abdominal cavities. Other findings included a developmentally normal male fetus with an estimated gestational age of 23 to 24 weeks. It was his opinion that the manner of death is indeterminate. Additionally, there is a body diagram attached to people's proposed exhibit number 2, and the people can display that if the court would like at the end.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Would the court like me to do that now, or would you like me to do that at the end of everything?
You can do it now.
Okay, thank you, Judge. And I'm not sure if the court can see, I have the medical examiner's report up, and I'm going to go to page 5. Page 5, Judge, of the postmortem report has the body diagram. This is page 1 of the 2-page body diagram.
All right, thank you.
And then this would be page 2.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
So stipulated for exam purposes only.
All right, thank you.
Oh, shoot. And Judge, if the court would allow, I have some additional exhibits that I would like to place in at this time. And those would be people's proposed exhibits 3, 4, and 5. They're Michigan State Police lab reports. I'd be seeking their admission under MCL 766.11B as well.
All right, do you have any objections to that, Mr. Anderson?
No objection. Looking for exam purposes only.
Thank you. Court will admit people's 3, 4, and 5 Michigan State lab reports.
Thank you, Judge. And reading from people's exhibit number 3, and I can place it up on the screen if the court would like at any point. It's a multi-page document.
Yes, please.
Okay. And Judge, on the screen, the court should see people's proposed or people's admitted exhibit number 3, which is the Michigan State Police lab report, record number 1. And that report, if the court would allow me to scroll down, was authored by Miss Jennifer Summers, Summers. She's a forensic scientist in the biology unit at Michigan State Police, and would be qualified as an expert if she were here to testify in biology. And I just want to note that the items that she received for testing were the victim's left and right ankle swabs, which are indicated as I'm showing right here on those items. And then also a pair of socks, item 4. So I'm sorry, the swabs were item 13 and 14. She also received a pair of socks, which was item 4. Item 5, which was a pair of Nike shoes. a black hooded sweatshirt, which is item 7. And those were the relevant items with regards to this report, Judge.
All right, thank you.
And if the court would allow, I would also be pulling up exhibit number 4. And is the court able to see people's, I believe the court did the court admit all of those 3 exhibits, 3, 4, and 5?
I
Alright.
did.
Okay. Then in people's admitted exhibit number 4, that should be up on the screen now.
I see it.
Okay. And this report indicates that if forensic scientist Ms. Lynn Helton were here to testify, she would indicate that she is a forensic scientist at the Michigan State Police Laboratories Biology Unit and would be qualified as an expert as such. She would testify that she received evidence, or the evidence tested was the victim's ankle swab, and that there was a case-to-case association, a CODIS case-to-case association between the victim's ankle swab and evidence in another case. And it indicates below, Judge, that that evidence item in the other case that there was an association to was a cigarette. And that completes the relevant portions of People's Exhibit 4.
Your Honor, may I ask, as to exhibits 3 and 4, if the prosecution placed on the record when those items were received and when they were analyzed?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
So in People's Exhibit 3, so I can't say that the date that they were analyzed, I can say that the date that the report was completed. So for exhibit number 3, the date that the items were received would have been November 14th of 2017. And the date that that testing would have been completed would have been February 27th of 2018.
February 27th.
Yep, 2/7 of 2018.
Thank you.
And in People's Exhibit number 4, which is record 6, that should still be up on the screen. The items were received on April 23rd, and I'm not sure specifically if there were items received in People's Exhibit 4 or if it was just a profile submitted. So I'm not certain, but in any event, it says date received April 23rd of 2018, date completed April 24th of 2018.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the final item I'd be showing in the screen would be People's Exhibit 5. And People's Exhibit number 5, which should be up on the screen, is another Michigan State Police lab report. And this was authored by forensic scientist Ms. Danielle Hankinson, who is in the biology unit at Michigan State Police and will be qualified as an expert in biology if she were here to testify. She performed testing on the ankle swabs, the socks, the Nike shoes, and the sweatshirt that were referenced in the other People's Exhibit 3. Scroll down to what her findings were, her relevant findings. So under finding number 2, and I'm just reading from the verbal scale. The analysis provides very strong support that Lawrence Mills is a contributor to the DNA profile developed from the victim's ankle swabs. In number 3, it indicates that this analysis provides very strong support that Lawrence Mills is a contributor to the DNA profile from the sock swabs. Moving to the next page. This analysis provides very strong support that Lawrence Mills is a contributor to the DNA profile from the sock swabs, and it has in parentheses touch. Scrolling down a bit more to finding number 6, indicates that this analysis provides very strong support that Lawrence Mills is a contributor to the DNA profile from the Nike shoe swabs, again in parentheses touch. And finally, in finding number 7, this analysis provides moderate support that Lawrence Mills is a contributor to the DNA profile developed from the sweatshirt swabs, and in parentheses wearer ID. And Judge, those complete the exhibits that the people would be reading in at this point. Judge, the only other witness that the people have, oh, and I believe I have a stipulation. This is something that I believe Mr. Anderson and I spoke about at the probable cause conference. I had a note. I have not spoken with Mr. Anderson about it previously, or not previously, but since then, Judge, I haven't talked to him today about it. It'd be the identification of the victim. Do you have an objection to that, Mr. Anderson?
We'll stipulate to the identification of the victim.
Thank you. And Judge, we have a stipulation that the individual that was located on October the 16th of 2017 in the area of Casper and Cypress was a Melissa Salazar. That is the same individual that Dr. Moons performed the postmortem examination on as well.
Is that an accurate stipulation, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, it is for exam purposes only.
All right, thank you. The court will receive that stipulation.
Thank you, Judge. The only other witness the people have is Detective James Krzyzewski on this case, Judge, and that involves the interview that's approximately an hour and 20 minutes or so.
All right, so do you want to call your officer in charge and at least admit that item of evidence?
Yes. At this time, the people would call Officer in Charge Detective James Krzyzewski.
Do you have his name?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll provide will be the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Please have a seat in the chair. Grab the microphone and speak loudly and clearly so that we can hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You may proceed, Mr. Fong.
Thank you, Judge. Can you tell us your name?
James Perez.
Okay, and how are you employed?
I am a detective with the Detroit Police Department Homicide Section.
And were you involved in the investigation of an individual by the name of Lawrence Mills?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and what was your role with regards to that investigation?
My role as part of this investigation with this particular case started off as assisting, but later became the officer in charge of the case.
Okay, and at some point in time, did you become, at some point in time, yes, did you become aware of, strike that. At some point in time, did you have an in-person meeting or interview, with the defendant, Mr. Mills?
I did.
Okay, and where did that interview take place?
That interview took place at the Detroit Detention Center.
Okay, and do you recall the date of that interview?
I believe it was March 23rd or 24th. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was one of those 2 days.
Of which year?
2020. I apologize. 2020.
Okay. And did you interview Mr. Mills alone, or were there any other individuals present with you?
I interviewed Mr. Mills with Lieutenant Robert Lalone.
Okay.
He is also assigned to the homicide section.
Okay. Now, prior to interviewing Mr. Mills, did you do anything to advise Mr. Mills of his rights?
Mr. Mills was read his constitutional rights.
Okay. And now, at the time of the interview, was this during COVID or some other period of time?
I'm sorry, you broke up during your question.
When you conducted the interview of Mr. Mills, was this during the COVID pandemic or some other time?
It was during the COVID pandemic.
Okay. Now, are you familiar with something called a constitutional rights notification form?
I am.
Okay. And were you all being Detroit police, using the constitutional rights notification forms in the same way that you all had in the past at this point in time?
No, we were using it differently.
Okay, can you explain that to us?
Not necessarily, so we would advise directly the individual of their rights.
What do you mean by advise directly? What does that mean?
By reading, there is 5 points, 5 sentences through that constitutional rights. We read those rights. We give the individual, whoever we spoke to, the opportunity to read them themselves. Ask and make sure that that individual understood their rights. If they had any questions, to ask them now, and we would make sure before we went on that they understood their rights as allotted to them before speaking to them.
Is that what you did on this date?
It is.
Okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is it typical for an officer in charge to then hand the advice of rights form oftentimes to the defendant to initial themselves if they
That is correct.
Now, was that done in this situation?
No,
Okay, how come?
because of COVID.
Okay. Did you personally read those rights out loud to the defendant?
I did.
Okay, and did the defendant indicate to you that he understood his rights?
He did.
Did he appear to be under the influence of any alcohol, narcotics, or any other type of drugs?
He did not appear so. As a matter of fact, I even asked at one point his educational level, where he, last schooling that he attended. I always asked if they are high or intoxicated. He stated he was not. And I asked him if they can read and understand English, and he stated yes, he could.
Okay, have you
Nothing that he told me showed anything otherwise.
ever observed an individual high on drugs, narcotics, or alcohol?
I have.
Okay, and did he appear consistent with those people that were using narcotics? Did he appear to be using narcotics to you in your experience?
He did not. He did not appear to be high or intoxicated at any time.
Okay. Did you ever make Mr. Mills any promises or threats in order to give you a statement?
I did not.
Now, after you advised Mr. Mills of his rights, were you confident that he understood the rights as he had been given them?
I was.
Okay. At this time, I would open it up to voir dire by defense counsel as to the voluntariness of the statement.
All right, thank you, Ms. Erickson.
Detective, let me ask you, in your investigation of this case, you had the opportunity to speak with witnesses connected as well?
With this particular case,
Yes.
I personally did not. No, sir.
You know that although this was during the time of COVID, whether or not any of those witnesses had produced written statements?
No, any statements that were taken written wise, I don't believe there were. I'll be honest, I don't believe there were. This happened in the very early morning hours. And I don't believe we had any eyewitnesses at that time.
When you indicated that this incident, well, the interview took place in the early morning hours.
Oh, no, not the interview with Mr. Mills. I'm talking about at the scene. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. Did you ask Mr. Mills whether or not he was taking any medications for any medical conditions such as depression or whatever?
He stated that he was.
Okay, did he tell you what that was?
He may have, but I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, sir. I'm sorry.
So, did you make a note at all what prescription drugs that was?
I didn't make note of it at that time due to the fact that it was audio and video recorded. Normally when I sit in a room with somebody, I don't personally like to write things down while I'm interviewing someone when it's audio and video recorded. I can review and take notes from there.
So would it be fair to say that he told you that he was taking some prescription drugs, and whatever it was he told you, you did not check to see what the side effects of that drug was in terms of reduced inhibition, comprehension, or anything like that.
I didn't review anything about that, no, sir. But I did specifically ask, you know, did he understand what was going on, what was happening? Did he understand his rights? Did he feel okay to speak? And he stated yes.
Okay. My only question was related to whatever medications.
I understand, yes.
How long did the interview take?
A little less than an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 20 minutes, hour 15 minutes, somewhere around there.
In the course of interviewing him, were other matters discussed, other potential cases that is?
Yes, there were several cases spoken about at that time.
At any time, did you re-advise him of his rights verbally
No, sir.
after the first time?
No, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
All right, thank you. Mr. Paul?
Thank you, Judge. At this time, I'd ask the court find that the statement was made knowing and voluntarily for the exam purposes only.
I would object for exam purposes only, primarily due to the fact that the witness has indicated that he had taken some medication and there was no indication that, based upon this record, cannot be certain as to whether or not my client was impaired at the time the statements were given.
All right, thank you. So, the court, through the testimony of Detective Perez, is going to find that Mr. Mills did knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily waive his rights when he spoke with the detective. Specifically, the detective indicated that he advised him of his constitutional rights. He asked him if he understood them. He asked him if he was under the influence of any substance. And based on the detective's own observation of Mr. Mills, he did not appear to be affected by any medication. The court will find that his statement was knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily given.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
Detective Krzyzewski,
Yes.
you had indicated when Mr. Anderson was just asking you some questions about some audio video recording. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So is it fair to say that the statement, Mr. Mills' statement, was audio and video recorded?
It was.
Was it ever reduced to writing?
It was never reduced to writing, no.
Okay. And have you had an opportunity to review Mr. Mills' statement since he gave it?
Once, about 2 months ago.
Okay. And Judge, and when you reviewed that statement, did it fairly and accurately depict the interview and questions that were posed to Mr. Mills and the answers that he gave?
Absolutely.
Judge, at this time, I would move for admission of People's Proposed Exhibit Number. Sorry, Judge, I set my exhibit list down. That would be People's Proposed Exhibit Number 1 into evidence.
Mr. Anderson?
I would either say, well, I'd say for exam purposes only. I would like the court to reserve until after reviewing the video.
Okay. You want me to do what?
I just hesitate somewhat to say I don't have any objection
Okay.
to it until after we have reviewed it.
All right. I think it needs to be admitted before I can view it. So the court is going to admit People's Number 1, which is the audio video recording from the Detroit Detention Center. And after I've viewed it, Mr. Anderson, if you have any objections to post, I'll allow you to make it at that time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Judge. Permission to publish it at this time?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. If the court has any issues hearing it, let me know. I have my volume turned all the way up, but I've not screen shared an interview before, so I just wanna, if you guys have any issues, just let me know. Can everyone see what's on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. And Judge, on the screen is People's Admitted Exhibit number 1. It's approximately 1 hour, 16 minutes, and 45 seconds. Detective Krzyzewski, do you recognize the area being shown in this video?
Yes, ma'am, that is the, one of the interrogation rooms at the Detroit Detention Center.
Okay, and do you see a time and date stamp on this video?
I am too far away to see that at this time.
Okay, if I told you the date of Friday, April 24th, 2020 at 8:39 and 23 seconds PM, does that sound correct to you?
Absolutely.
Okay, and Judge, I am gonna play this video now at this time if the court would allow.
You may.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, you have a seat. I see you have a mask on. Would you like a pair of gloves also? All right, now while we're over here. It's up to you.
Yeah, probably safe, sorry.
Okay.
They had 2 people in cells across from the holding that had it. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah. It's because people won't stay home.
Exactly. Okay. Sure, I get all this correct here. Watch. Lawrence, right? Yes, sir. I will. Sir.
Larry.
Middle name, Paul.
Yes, sir. Last name is Mills, and I'm the 3rd.
Date of birth.
The 3rd, 1987.
Phone number.
734 560 4851.
And what was the last grade you completed?
Well, I do have a high school diploma. I did join the National Guard, but I don't have the best back or knees, so it wasn't working out for me. But I did go through the program that they have to get the actual high school diploma.
Okay.
It's through Miles Coverdale Academy.
And are you high or intoxicated right now? And you can read and write?
Yes, sir. I don't need to handwriting.
You can see my thick and scratch from here, right? Not the best in the world either. Okay, so what we're doing now, because of all this coronavirus thing, normally I will have you I'll read these to you and then I'll have you read them out. I would have you sign this saying that you had your rights read to you. But we've kind of changed it up a bit. So basically what I'm going to do, if you'd like to follow along, I'm going to read these out loud. Okay? And then ask you if you understand it. Okay? Now, if you have any questions, break it down for everyone. If you have any questions whatsoever that you don't understand something here, please ask me to clarify for you. Okay? Says I have a right to remain silent, and that I do not have to answer any questions put to me or any statement. Do you understand it? Okay. Any statement I make or anything I say will be used against me in a court of law. You understand it? Says I have the right to have an attorney, lawyer, present before, during the time I answer any questions. Make any statements. You understand it? Yes, sir. If I cannot afford an attorney, lawyer, one will be appointed to me without cost prior to any questioning. I can decide at any time to exercise my right to not answer any questions or make any statements. You understand that? Yes, sir. Okay. And do you understand all that, right? Yes. Okay. Yeah, what is going? Okay. So because we can't really sign off on this, I have to make sure you're okay with it. You know what I mean? I apologize. It's the world we're living in right now. Normally we wouldn't be talking with.
I have literally never even been arrested, so this is all new to me. It's freaking me out.
Well, we got to go through formality and talk to people and things like that, like you and ourselves, make sure that there's nothing, everything's on the up. Never mentioned before anything against you. I promise there's no judgment zone. If we say anything, we don't say to be judgmental or make you a bad person. Like that. Last time both of us went on a lake, we didn't walk on that. Okay.
Right.
All right. So, reason why you're here is there was a hit and run accident. Okay. This is a little while back. It was a complete accident, and it occurred right around 4th and Campbell Street in the city of Detroit. Do you know where that's at?
No.
Familiar with Southwest Detroit?
Not really.
Have you ever been to Southwest Detroit?
I've been there with friends to get tacos from a taco truck, but I don't really know the major areas or streets to it.
So basically, you don't ride around there or anything like that. Portland's kind of east of West.
Yeah, I know you can go downtown on 4th Street. Basically, I've been to taco trucks on Springwell. Vernier?
Okay. Like I said, it was a complete accident. Okay. Woman got hit by a car. Your name was brought up into this investigation, okay? And the reason why your name was brought up into this investigation was because a vehicle, you own a black Yukon, correct?
Yes. I just got it a couple months back.
And what did you have before that?
I've had a lot of vehicles, honestly.
Have you?
Yeah. I used to do basically just, if I was in between jobs, buy a car for a couple hundred bucks, I drive it for a little bit.
Right around Christmas time, 2017. Then, what kind of vehicle did you have?
Christmas time. I honestly can't remember. That could have been my Jeep. No, it was a Burgundy Cherokee Classic.
Okay.
Had a Chevy Blazer, had a Trailblazer, Jeep, my Taurus, my Yukon. It was a 2006 silver Taurus. That I actually got rid of for the Yukon because the floorboards are completely routed out and I got sick of fixing it. Yeah.
Okay. And you kind of went through some vehicles.
Yeah.
Do you remember the years and the colors? This would help you out tremendously.
The Blazer was a 2001. It was goldish tan.
And you had that right around Christmas time?
I'm not sure what year. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
My Trailblazer was silverish gray. The Jeep obviously was burgundy.
Mhm.
The Taurus was silver, and my Yukon black.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if I've had any cars in between. I don't think so. But like I said, I did use to swap vehicles quite a bit. So
And why is it?
get tired of them. Don't have money to fix them. Want them up for a different problem, I guess. Get tired of them.
Okay. You're pretty good with mechanics.
Yes and no. I mean, I'm a backyard mechanic. You open my garage door, it's full of tools. So
Okay.
motorcycles, trucks, cars, stuff like that.
Yeah. So do you do a lot of work on your old vehicles?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Oh, I did have a Chevy Cobalt. I forgot about that one. That was burgundy. I bought that from my father, who got that from my uncle.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. And you don't remember what vehicle you had back then?
I just used mom's is a Fusion. I just pretty much use that for work, and right now I'm using that because my Yukon water pump took a crap in the front cover behind the water pump.
Are you working right now or are you laid off?
Like 3 days a week delivering pizza, so I don't make a lot of money. So that's why the truck's still sitting, has been fixed. I don't want to tear into it and create a bigger issue.
Everybody's.
Well, I'm probably only working because 2 of the kids decided that they would go after, the state and get all the free money if they don't want to work. So that's unfortunate, but
Serving the National Guard.
yeah, I signed up, did basic training, and my back and knees weren't really having it. So they give you the opportunity towards the end. You can either walk away and, no harm, no foul, or if you want to proceed, then try it, but you're more likely to go home medical. So I just signed and got a failure to adapt discharge. So still not proud of it, you know what I mean? But it was one of those things where my back literally would not allow me to do it. So
So, I mean, we have a decent amount of evidence that you were probably driving a vehicle that hit somebody. That's what we're investigating. I mean, the evidence is what it is. We can get into it a little bit deeper in a minute, but right now we're just trying to sort everything out and make sure everything is what it is. The thing is, we always look at everything. We have, it is very similar to TV. There's surveillance, and forensics, there's that. The difference is we don't have an hour to wrap it up. We wouldn't walk out of this room and walk in and have different things.
right.
And everything else, you know what I mean? But we've got enough evidence to put you at the scene. And, the other side of it is, if there was something else going on, if you got scared, something like that, we just need to know that because it kind of changes the parameters around, what happened. So we always talk to everybody. We have, we kind of have the story, and we'd like to find the story. There's always a human factor in it. You know what I mean? There's always another side of it as we listen to what happens. As I always tell my kids, there's your side, her side, and what really happened, right? And basically what we're looking for is what really happened. What vehicle was it? It was an SUV. A Trailblazer. It appeared to be so, but we can't be for certain. Well, I did used to have a drug issue. I will be honest with you on that. Okay, fair enough. I do not anymore because obviously of my child. I'm not proud of that either, but today was probably the worst day I've ever had in my life. My son wants me to get arrested. Again, this is no judgment, trust me. The only occurrence I can think of is
I was in the process of getting robbed. I hit a car and left because I was in fear of my life, but I did not hit anybody. Okay.
What kind of drugs did you use?
Cocaine. I used to have Xanax issue, Percocet, like you
No, but I'm saying, like, no, it is. And here's the thing. Sometimes we've been doing this a long time. And I always try to figure out what happened. What would, some people get triggers, some people get this, some people get that. And, I'm trying to figure out, what happened with you, and I can see what happened with you now. It makes sense. You know what I mean?
honestly,
People use drugs.
100% I honestly don't believe that I hit anybody. Like I said, I do remember hitting a vehicle. I'm not gonna lie, I was intoxicated. I did pick up a young lady.
Did you?
She did try and rob me.
Did she? Was that when you say pick up a young lady? We're all shooting class. Okay. You know what she looks like?
African American, very light skinned, I believe.
Okay. Where was it? If you remember where it is. When you say she tried to rob you, what happened?
Basically, I screamed at her, told her I'd get my gun and shoot her, which I didn't have my gun. I got out of the car and got in the shoot. They did follow me around quite a bit. I do remember running into them. Honest to God, I do not remember running into them.
Okay. That makes sense now. Because we're gonna go ahead and we're eventually gonna show you all that. Open face. Okay. But we just got to kind of see where you're at and whether you're going to tell us the truth or not. It's starting to make sense. I'm seeing a combination of you at probably the lowest point in your life. Addicted to drugs, which doesn't make you who you are. That's not Larry. That's the drugs. You know what I mean? And then being angry at somebody because they robbed you. You know what I mean? And it does happen. You know what I mean? You're pretty clean cut. But Larry, it does make it's a mitigating factor. Does that make sense? So, Larry, you got to understand, and that's why we're trying to talk to you to find out that did you do something completely maliciously, or did you do something? You know what I mean?
I would never hurt anybody. Just
no, I know that, and that's kind of what we're trying to ferret out here.
Like I said, I don't think I drove over anybody. I do know I hit a vehicle.
Okay. Well, this person is specifically driven. Like I said, the incident was captured on video. And we have some other evidence that leads us to know it was you. And again, what we're trying to ferret out now is really, it makes sense to me now. You know what I mean? Because we've met people that are bad. We've met people that are evil. They've sat in that chair. We've interviewed. You know what I mean? Not to get into many other people's business, but this week alone, I don't get that vibe from you. You know what I mean? I don't get that vibe from you at all. And I've met a lot of people in your position that you are now that when they were using narcotics and their inhibitions are lowered and they're not themselves. You know what I mean? It's not you. It's the narcotics and a combination of things and some bad choices and suddenly bing, bang, boom, they're sitting. You know what I mean? And it just happens. You know what I mean? But this is where we need to get your side of the story. If somebody did something to you, that's a mitigating circumstance. That's different than just hurting somebody just to hurt them because they were standing. Do you know what I mean? And that's why we're trying to get your side of it to kind of figure out, again, like you said, there's this, and then there's this. This is the part we don't know. You know what I mean? And, it is what it is. And as we progress, trying to we have to hold back a little bit, and I apologize. We're eventually going to tell you everything we have, but we have to hold back a little bit to see how honest. You're probably about in the 50% honesty range. We got to get to the 100% honesty range, and then we can be 100% honest with you. We're not going to lie to you. I promise you that. We're not going to promise you anything. I promise you. Obviously, you can see we're pretty. We're not going to throw you anything like that. But we're going to be honest with. We can only thing we'll do is we'll hold back a little bit until you're honest with us, and then we can say, okay, now that makes sense. Because the problem is we do have digital evidence, we have some forensic evidence, there's some things that show us
kind of, like I said, the CSI stuff does happen, so we have some things that let us know kind of what happened, but we don't know what happened as what led up to that, and that's kind of why we're talking, because it makes it helps us understand things. You know, there's a human factor in our job, believe it or not, and we are the monsters that I think a lot of people paint us out to be. We really want to ferret it out and find out. Our job isn't to you know, come after you, to come after anybody. Our job is just to find out the truth. I mean, honestly, and that's what we're trying to do. I mean, I promise you that. And again, if we say anything or say no, you're not 100% honest, that's not me being judgmental on you. That's me knowing that we have some evidence that doesn't quite match up with what you're saying. That being said, I have to be honest with you and tell you, hey, it doesn't match up with what we have. You know what I mean?
Like I said, I honestly don't think I drove over anybody.
Okay, well, you didn't.
Okay.
And again, you know, if it wasn't captured on video, I wouldn't dispute it with you. I mean, we would be out on like a fishing expedition, but we have video. And we know what we do forensically. So the fact that, you know, two things I'm looking at the narcotic usage and looking at the fact that she was a prostitute. I'm not saying that she was a prostitute that to paint her in a bad one, but I also understand that sometimes prostitutes take advantage of people that have it. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Again, those are people at their lowest point in their lives also, so they're not making probably the best decisions they can. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, when two people making bad decisions meet, bad things happen. You know? So when you say she robbed you, what did she do? Did she take your money? Did she, you know?
Took my money, my cards, and my wallet, everything.
Okay. And where was your wallet in?
My back pocket.
Okay, were you having sex with her at the time?
I actually leaned over to flick my cigarette, just grabbed my shit and took off.
Really? Okay. And that's when you went to go after her with the car? Did you hit her when you were going after her with the car?
I honestly don't think I did. Like I said, I remember her getting into another SUV.
She didn't get in another car. You're talking about a lady. And that makes sense because I'm gonna.
Maybe I fogged my own mind because I didn't want to think about it.
Well, Larry, let me tell you this. I told you we're going to be honest as you're being honest with us. I feel like you are. We have you on video. We know you put your cigarette. Okay. Because, you know.
That's why you got my DNA.
Well, you've watched CSI, right? That's how we got your DNA. It's very clear in the video. Believe it or not, even though it's at night, because of the night, it hits that air and it almost flares up like you're taking a puff off of it. So you actually see it arc out the window and then you can see her coming out and you coming around. And kind of going after her. Now, if you're going after her to chase her down and it's snowing out because it's December and it's not up for debate that it's snowing out because, you know, we got it on video. And, you know, you hit her by accident and then, you know, say, oh shit. I mean, that's, again, different than, you know what I mean? I'm not going to lie to you. You got a bad back and bad knees. I'm probably the sport top in the city. I always have. That's just because I'm old now. I always have been. So, what I used to do when I was working patrols, I'd go after with the car a little bit until they slowed down, until they ran out of steam. Because I can't catch anybody. I can't catch a 300-pound man. I'm not kidding you. But bad back and knees, if you're going after and recover your wallet, and she slips, you know, go over the top of her, well, that's a lot different than, you know.
I get what you're saying.
Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Like I said, in all
honesty, and I'm telling you,
recall that to be 100%.
So, and I'm telling you, I'm giving you a recap of the video show.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
The same with flick my cigarette here, get out.
So if I tell you to flick your cigarette, you know I'm not lying to you, right?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And if I tell you that forensically we have your DNA off of the cigarettes, that would make sense, right? You know, we're not lying to you about that.
Right.
So you would know I'm not lying to you about her getting into another vehicle. I mean, I wouldn't. I just can't.
But I might have fogged my brain. I'm being honest.
Okay. And the one thing is I'm pretty sure you went back at one point and probably got your wallet back. Because the way it looks now in the video is almost like you're robbing her. But I'm pretty sure now that after talking to you, and I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you get out of the car at one point and retrieve your items. Is that correct?
I remember going back and getting my wallet. I don't remember the actions in between.
So how do you remember getting your wallet?
I remember chasing an SUV, which, like I said, maybe, I don't know. I remember not getting a hold of anybody, going back to where I was where I flicked my cigarette because I knew that's where she had jumped out and my wallet was sitting there. Obviously, I didn't have my card or I didn't have any cash, but at least I was able to retrieve my.
So this particular incident we're talking about, the ladies on the ground, whatever you take from her. I mean, again, and this is why we want to talk to you, because if I'm driving down the street and I hit somebody and then I go through their pockets, what does that look like?
It looks like you're robbing.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
I understand.
if I'm going through their pockets and retrieving what's mine, I don't know, it's up for debate, but, I mean, it's a lot different than specifically going after somebody to rob. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what we're looking at here is, are you the type of person that did that and are you robbing her? I mean, I don't know, maybe she had 6 jobs before you. You know what I mean? Or are you retrieving your property?
That's what you're doing.
Right? And then, so if you go to her person and you're, because again, it's captured on video. So again, I'm not lying to you because I'm describing what happened, right? And you're on the top of where you're looking for your property. That makes sense. Honestly. Okay. And again, this is why, and I apologize. We're going to start laying things out for a little bit more. Okay. But I have to kind of see where you're at so we know whether you're going to be honest with us. And I promise you as we go along, we'll be, what I mean?
Well, along that aspect, you retrieved your wallet. Did you take anything else from her?
I don't believe it did. No.
No, are you positive with that? The reason I asked, maybe you accidentally.
I don't believe it.
Okay. Because, and I'll be straight up with you, about a block down,
Okay.
all her stuff was laying there in the middle of the street.
Like the directs, we see your car going this way, and it's almost like her backpack, or her purse, something.
Backpack, purse,
is out in the street.
right.
Were you going through that to retrieve your property and throw that out to this night purse? What's going on with that? Does that make sense?
Is that what happened?
Was your wallet inside of there, or was your wallet in her pocket? Was it? Okay. And did you? I mean, is that how?
All the window, threw her shit out, all the makeup and everything, whatever.
Okay, so she had makeup and stuff in there. Okay. And the only thing you kept was what? Was your
My
wallet?
personal stuff.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But that's where it was. Was it something where you just, you guys are out there for a minute? Did she lift the wallet while you guys were having sex, or?
We were messing around. We weren't having sex, but like I said, when I leaned over to get rid of my cigarette was when she grabbed my shit and took off.
Okay. And then she puts it in her backpack. So when you go back to cover her backpack, when you drive away, you take it, throw your stuff in that how her backpack ends up on the street. That's actually, now things are starting to make sense, because obviously if you know what we know about the backpack, but again, this is just, we're starting to unfold things a little bit, here, okay, for you. The only thing I had asked you is on this particular incident, you come back a couple times, why is that? Like you circle the block and stuff like that, just where you pissed off, a little bit out of your mind, seeing red?
I honestly don't know.
Okay. But you did come back a few times.
Okay.
Correct? I
don't.
And here's the thing, Larry, we're being honest with you.
I know you guys are being very honest. If you got me on video going back and forth a couple times, then I went back and forth.
And again, when I say you went back and forth, you specifically are in the roadway and you kind of shut your lights off, drive up onto the sidewalk and whatnot. You do it and you kind of go around the block and come back and do it again. Were you that angry? I don't know, sir. Were you angry?
Oh yeah, I was very angry.
Kind of, in a zone angry?
Drugs don't help.
Well, I know they don't help. People use drugs and alcohol because, we're having problems and battling demons, and trust me, you're not the only one to be battling demons.
I mean, I'm not being funny, but I'm sure you guys checked my house. You've seen I got empty cocaine bags in my room.
Yeah.
So you really haven't quit the drugs?
Cocaine, no. Pills, yeah.
When you use the cocaine, does it make you lose your inhibitions, or you're not thinking straight, do things you normally wouldn't do?
No. Honestly, I do it. Yeah.
So back then, you could put that on more than the Xanax.
When did you stop using the Xanax? So recent?
It's been well over a year.
About over a year?
Over a year, yeah.
Okay.
See, what it was is, my whole life I was prescribed Xanax, but I was on a very low dose.
Okay.
When I had left the military, I did lose my mind a little bit.
Sure.
Tried to hurt myself. I ended up in the psych ward, Circle of Life, at Crash It. I finally believe it is.
Yeah.
Now it changed names.
Yeah.
When I was in their doctor, which isn't a doctor, I'm not being rude or anything, but
Oh, you're fine.
he took my dose from 0.5 milligrams a day to, I had to take it 3 times a day, 2 milligrams.
Damn.
And then they're only supposed to hold you 3 days there.
Yeah.
Mine turned into 2 weeks because I wasn't being compliant. Well, when you give me 4 to 5 times the
You
normal
don't wanna
amount I'm
take
used to, I would go right to my room and go to sleep. So when I got out, we went to, the doctor's not there anymore, but my primary physician used to be Livonia Medical Center at Middle Belt before Schoolcraft, Dr. Rancourt.
Okay.
She's seen the dose he was giving me and literally cut my script off.
For sure.
Said, you can't have it. You need
By
to dry
this
yourself
time-
out.
You're already like kind of.
Basically, I haven't done it.
Oh, really? Okay, good.
Give or take.
Yeah.
I mean, it picked back up when I was taking the Vicodin and shit. I don't know why that was stupid, but
Were you so when you were prescribed as a child, you suffered from anxiety or?
I still have it to this day. I don't like mess with any kind of pills. I
get
I
it.
get
You
the
can't imagine.
clammy, sweaty hands. I mean, I get red. I have poor circulation on my hands and feet.
So, based on that, it's making sense. The incident. So when you were doing Xanax, a large,
Xanax is a major downer and Vicodin is like a peaker.
so you were kind of
There's no excuse
you were
for
caught in a
anything.
whirlwind. No, I'm not saying it.
Absolutely.
It makes
It was
sense
up
now.
and down in alcohol, and
So that night, were you pretty tuned
I
out?
was fucked up, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. And when you realized she stole the wallet, you
I lost my
lost your shit. That's why you came back 3 times. Well, 2 times.
Like, is
3
it?
times.
Okay.
And okay. I mean, that makes sense. I wish I could tell you it's okay. It's not okay to do.
Okay.
But Larry, it makes more sense.
Yeah. It's not okay with me. It hasn't been okay with me.
I can tell it's weighing on you. Do you feel better now talking to us? I mean,
No,
you seem like a decent person. That's why I was trying to figure out how this all happened. Which car were you in?
Metro Blizzard.
Were you? Okay.
And what color is it? It was a dark gray.
Okay.
It was a 2006
Where-
two-wheel drive. I had a lift kit on it with 33s.
Where's that vehicle at now? Who'd you sell it?
I don't even know. I think some kid in Woodhaven bought it for $1,700.
Okay. You don't remember was it registered to at the time when you had it?
Yes.
So if we looked up all the cars registered, we'd be able to find that one.
Yeah, 2006 Chevy Trail Blizzard.
Okay, it's legal. And I'm not saying to be funny or booty or anything, like you wouldn't do this, but it was legally plated. You would. Makes sense. This Trailblazer kind of like your style of vehicle you like?
No. It's
Why
just
is
a
20
cheap vehicle I had the money for. I have that Yukon.
Oh, you can, but is that like sister models or no?
I don't know.
Okay. I didn't know. I'm not a car guy, so I was kind of curious.
I got that Yukon for $600. It needed tires and brakes, and I needed a vehicle. Like I said, the Taurus was a good car, but I welded in pans on the floorboard because it had no floor.
Yeah.
And that part was repaired, but then all the other existing floors started to rot out, just fall apart. So the car had to go.
I know I've had that's my high school. That's every car in my high school. We used to call it the Fred Flintstone car, like you could stick your feet up and stop it.
It was great. I had one somewhere. It was a 77 green Chevette. And
My dad used that one.
and I did not have a floorboard on the passenger side, so
Once
when we were all drinking, we just stopped. All the beer went down in the hole.
perfect cover.
Absolutely.
So, so the lady, she was a working girl. You didn't have sex. Okay. So you started messing around when she took your wallet and stuff from your wallet. Okay. She got out. You drove after her. All right.
Well, I'm glad you're being honest about that. I appreciate that.
I just don't see, like I said, it would make sense.
I have, has anything like this ever happened before? No? Well, here's the thing. We've got a few things to talk to you about, and not just that. One of the other things is something exactly similar. Not too far from that. Over on Michigan in Central, just before Halloween, 2017. You know where that's at? Same, it's in the same area. Yeah, close to it, very close to it. Base theater, go to get those.
Okay, is there a specific house or street you go to?
There's Marathon gas station at Michigan, Illinois.
Yeah.
And slightly further down, where was it? There's like a little store right before Junction.
Okay, so that's why you're doing the area. So we had something similar, and again, since you were honest with the store first, we're gonna be a little more honest with you on this time. In this particular case, again, we have the DNA. It's not up for debate, you know, whether you will involve in this or not, but what's up for debate is, again, mitigating circumstances. Normal thing to do, it seems like once in a while, you know, angry at somebody, you know what I mean? Again, I understand. I'm not saying that, you know, this girl deserves it either, but there's something else.
You the man. Thank you.
Like my partner said, you know, the thing is we forensic and visually we have a tremendous amount of it. Okay. Do you remember being with a young lady, like I said just before, right around that area that I told you, like central in Michigan area, being back in the neighborhood, like on a side street, okay, and young girl ended up, she was hit by a vehicle, and her body ended up on sidewalk. That's where she ended at. The thing is, your DNA is in spots where it would appear that you set her there.
Specifically, and this is where it gets really goofy, like
Yeah, okay.
yeah, TV-ish, and like I'm telling you, like everybody was asking me, and I'll be honest with you, everybody's like, was it really? I was like, no. First of all, one of the screens like this floating in the air. I said, secondly, you know, when somebody kills somebody, it's not burned in the back of the retinas, and we go like this and look in the back. But I have to tell you, in this day and age of technology, and the DNA is something like, you know, how computers, like, you know, well, you remember the comparing now. DNA is a evolving technology that is one that is like 6 months from now they'll be able to do more than they could now. A year after that they'll be able to do even more. So when I started, you know, they weren't able to do these things, and I'm telling you today they can. And your DNA was recovered, you know, off different parts of your body. That would only make sense that your DNA would be there if you took her and actually moved her out of the way.
I can 100% tell you that did not happen.
Well, I can 100% tell you it did, because of the way your DNA, you know, showed up on it. I mean, honestly. So it'd be one thing if you had picked up a prostitute and we do what they call a vaginal swab and somebody had sex with a prostitute. Well, that's fine. I'm not saying that's a good thing or bad thing to pick up a prostitute. We're all men in here and we're adults, so it is what it is, right? And that's not to be judgmental, but these weren't vaginal swabs. These were like off of their clothing, off of their legs, you know, things of that nature where it didn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like if you have sex with somebody, okay, you'd expect it to, you know, to get a swab possibly, but it wasn't there, it was elsewhere. I mean, they have what they call touch DNA now, where, you know, if you take a surface and you touch it, you do a 10 count, and then you lift your hand up, we just left your DNA. If I dispose of these, my DNA is like, well, things like that. So, you know, and that's where we have the DNA samples from. And it's not just one part of it. Like they do a lot of really crazy things these days. And, so that's kind of what the evidence shows. So when we hit one, you know, we're like, okay, we need to look at what's going on. When it became two, we had to step it up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And again, it doesn't seem like it's I just don't see you as being a malicious person. If you were doing
Not at all.
drugs and picking up prostitution and drugs sometimes go together, especially with somebody like yourself. You've got to have that conduit to get to, you know, the narcotics. You pick a girl up, you know, I've seen it.
None of it's a good excuse.
No,
I don't like my life because I only have my kid part-time. You know what I mean? I never have a very good job. I couldn't make it in the service. My life sucks, but there's still no excuse to turn to drugs and do dumb shit.
Yeah, but here's the thing though, Larry. When we're on, being on drugs makes you a human being. Doing dumb shit on drugs makes you a human being. If you're stone cold sober doing dumb shit, that makes you an evil human being. You know what I mean?
No, you're
I don't think you're an
right.
evil human being. I think when you're on the drugs, it lowered your inhibitions. When you get pissed off, you're not out gunning people down. You're not a gangbanger. You're not out. You know what I mean?
I've been in jail. I don't hurt people.
And that I do know. I know this is the first time ever in your entire life you've ever had handcuffs put on. I know that. I know.
We had to jump through some hoops to track you down, and I'm not gonna lie. You know what I mean? We had to jump through some serious hoops to track you down, and you know, figure out who you were and everything else. It wasn't easy. I mean that sincerely. And the reason why it wasn't easy is because you're not a bad person. So, well, Larry, you did some bad things. There's a difference between being a bad person and being a person that does something, do some bad things. The reason I think you're a decent person is you're talking to us now and telling us what you did. You know what I mean? It shows remorse. It shows that you're a decent person. It shows that, you know, you feel bad about what happened. You know what I mean? We're just trying to iron out the facts. That's all. You know what I mean? I would never ask anybody to tell me anything they didn't do. I'd never ask anybody, you know, I think you were in a zone back then. You know what I mean? When you got pissed off, you're high and everything else. And, you know, this difference, a different person came out. And I think that, you know, this woman, just like the other one, I don't know what she did to you. Maybe you can explain it to us. But she must have done something because it wasn't like you're out there doing it every day just to do it. You know what I mean? I get it. Prostitutes sometimes do nefarious things. I mean, prostitutes are street people, right? Again, you know, yeah, was it wrong for you to do it? Absolutely. I would never tell you it was right or it was okay. But at the same time, you know, we're here to talk to you about mitigating circumstances. You know what I mean? What led up to it? You know, you told us the first time when you threw the girl's backpack out the window, she had robbed you. This girl pulled up on the sidewalk. I'm wondering, something similar? Was disagreement?
Hey, honest to God, I don't think I drove anybody up on the sidewalk, sir.
There's some.
I've had sex with prostitutes.
Got it.
I mean, that would be like, obviously, if I'm wiping my stuff on her clothes and moving her to move around, but I honest to God, I did not pull it.
So this lady was also, well, we don't know that you pulled her from the sidewalk. So again, remember, I told you to be honest with you. But your DNA was specifically kind of close. I mean, you cornered the car. You don't really know why, but you had to move her somehow.
I honestly did not pull her, sir.
Let me ask you this. I'm just gonna.
That's me being straightforward.
Was there another incident with the prostitute or something like that? So, no. Think long and hard because this girl's not with us anymore. We have to be honest with each other. Here's the thing. We're in for a penny, in for a pound. We've got the first one out of the way. Now it's time we need to be honest with each other. We need to be, in a minute, we'll be full disclosure with each other. Talk about everything. You might as well get it, you know, I can tell some of the stuff weighs on you. You need to let us take some of that weight off. You need to be honest with it. You know what I mean? And again, I get it. You know what I mean? If I didn't see the remorse in your eyes, if I didn't think you were a decent person, I wouldn't be here. We'd be right. Pull the books up and look at that.
The one in Michigan Central, I didn't pull her up on the sidewalk. I did her with my truck.
You did? What kind of car you want?
Up on the sidewalk. It was my Trailblazer.
Your Trailblazer? Okay. That was the one that was down.
Yeah, it was down the little side.
We were heading south down Central towards Michigan Avenue. It was right here.
Okay. What? Was there any motivation behind it, or what?
Honestly, that was the exact same scenario. I was pissed off at myself, pissed off at the world.
Corey? kind of like shit.
Yeah, and why the fuck did I do that to myself? Why did I put myself?
Listen, that's just, you know what I mean? We get these low spots. Sometimes it happens. It happens. This is where we gotta try to bring you back up.
Yeah, but my stupid decisions just affected my son's life. And now his dad's not gonna care of.
Well, Larry, here's one thing you can do for your son, for us, and for those women, right? You're being honest. So if your son ever comes to you, trust me, I've got boys that have been saying this as sincerely as I can. I screw up. I screw up pretty regularly. But I always go to him, I look him in the eyes, and I apologize to him. I tell him I screwed up. You know what I mean? That's one thing you can tell him. You can say, son, your dad screwed up, but I did what I had to do when I was a So you never moved her, you just hit her and she flew on the sidewalk. Okay. Did you have sex with her? Is that what your DNA would have been? You guys have like vaginal intercourse or whatever?
You think you tossed your condom out the window down the street? Unfortunately, that's not where it ends. 2017, there was another incident that happened 3 days before Christmas. It's over on the Service Drive, 75 Service Drive. Young lady got hit by a car after doing service drive. Yeah, or close, actually, kind of close to it. I kind of stuck out of line with the 75. It was actually, it's close to the 75 Service Drive, and that's kind of the way because it was close, that's the way I've been referring to it as. As such, girl got out of the car. She was struck. Money was taken back. I personally think the wallet was taken back, and then the girl was struck again. Now she ended up going into the hospital. She was in there for a little while, about a week or so. She was able to give it. Yeah, she's okay. She was able to give a description though, and she was able to be a full line. Okay. Is that what happened?
Can you pause it for a moment?
She's alive. We're not even.
Yes, Judge.
All right, is this, next set of question and answer going into the case that we just concluded?
It is, and I think there might be a little bit left at the end of this, but I think if the court has gotten kind of the gist of it at this point, I can stop and then keep the rest of it if Mr. Anderson doesn't object, and if the court would like to view it in its entirety after, we could do it like that if the court would prefer.
All right, Mr. Anderson, what's your position?
I don't have an objection.
All right, so I think I've heard enough as it relates to the two cases that remain. I don't need to hear anything further about the case that has already been filed over.
Thank you. Then I can stop it at this point, Judge, and I'll just keep the entirety of the exhibit, the entirety of the video as an exhibit.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Do you have any additional questions of the detective?
I just have one moment, Judge.
Sure.
Judge, I just have one item to show. The officer in charge of the court would allow. It would be People's proposed exhibit number 6. It's a map of the area.
Go ahead.
I think I actually put on there the wrong witness's name. I think I put under the statute, Judge. It should be Detective Krzyzewski instead.
All right.
And Detective Krzyzewski, are you familiar with the area in which this incident occurred?
I am.
Okay. And if I showed you a map, well, let me show you the map first in people's proposed exhibit number 6. Permission to publish that, Judge, just so that I can authenticate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Detective Krzyzewski, are you able to see, and I know it's not very large of a, from where you're sitting, are you able to see people's proposed exhibit number 6 on the screen?
We're good. If you back it up just a little, we're good. We were good right there. I actually see exactly what we're talking about. That's perfect.
Does this fairly and accurately depict the area in which we've been describing where Ms. Salazar was found deceased?
That is correct. Where your icon currently is right now, if you went directly down to an intersection, that would be Cypress and Casper.
And this
Yes.
fairly and accurately depicts that area?
Yes, ma'am.
And Judge, at this time, I'd move for admission of people's proposed exhibit number 6 into evidence.
Any objections, Mr. Anderson?
None.
All right, people 6, the map of Casper and Cypress will be omitted.
Thank you, Judge. I have no additional questions.
Cross-examination, Mr. Anderson.
I have no questions.
All right, thank you, Detective.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Judge, at this time, let me just double check. At this time, the people have no additional witnesses or exhibits, and we would wrap. And if
All
the
right, thank
council has none, I would make my motion to bind over as charged in the complaint warrant.
Any witnesses, Mr. Anderson?
I have no questions, no witnesses, question of fact, Your Honor.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Funk.
Thank you, Judge. As Mr. Anderson has indicated, I believe it is a question of fact, and I will leave it to the court's discretion at this time.
All right, thank you. The court, first heard from Ryan Pajowski, PAJAKWSKI. He's with the Detroit Police Department. He worked on October 16, 2017 as a forensic technician in the crime scene unit. He was working, I don't think he was working about 3 a.m. because he indicated that he arrived at the scene at 9:50 a.m. He said he he trained to receive certification to handle evidence. He went to a location of Casper and Cypress in the city of Detroit, that's located in southwest Detroit. He went there to process the scene of a homicide. He said there were officers there that secured the scene, and there was a blue tarp covering the deceased individual. He took pictures and prepared a report. He also collected items. Some of the items collected was DNA, a used condom, a water bottle, and there was also a piece of a car that was collected. There were Nike shoes, ankle socks, a cell phone, which happened to be a Samsung cell phone, a black and white hoodie, some trace DNA from a curb, and some DNA that was located on the left and right wrist of an individual deceased, and DNA from the left and right ankle of the deceased individual. Those items were submitted to the Michigan State Police. The court also received people's exhibit number 2, which was a medical examiner's report authored by Dr. Moon. He performed an autopsy on Linda Salazar on October 17, 2017. Dr. Moon would qualify as an expert in the area of forensic pathology. He concluded that Ms. Salazar's cause of death was multiple injuries, and that there was also a 23 to 24 week fetus that she was pregnant with, and the manner of death was indeterminate. The court received People's 3, 4, and 5, which were reports from the Michigan State Police, authored by various forensic scientists that each works in the biology unit. And the sum and substance of those reports is that there were swabs that were taken, ankle swabs, evidence that was recovered from socks, from Nike shoes, from a shirt. Those items contained DNA evidence, and that the defendant, Mr. Mills, was a contributor to the DNA profile in item number 2, and item number 3, and item number 6, and item number 7. In item number 7, he was a moderate contributor to those DNA profiles. And in the other items, the descriptive of it indicated that Mr. Mills was at least 74,000 times more likely that the DNA originated from Mr. Mills. In item number 3, and 290 trillion times more likely that the DNA originated from Mr. Mills in item number 6. And in item number 2, it was at least 28 septillion times more likely that the, okay. That is not as to Mr. Mills. It was a very strong support that Mr. Mills was a contributor to the DNA that was provided. There was a stipulation between the parties that Melissa Salazar was in fact the deceased on October 16, 2017, and her body was located near the area of Cypress and Casper in the city of Detroit. The court heard from Detective Kraszewski, who works for the Detroit Police Department Homicide Unit. He initially assisted with this case before he became the officer in charge. He conducted an interview of Mr. Mills at the Detroit Detention Center. He said on March 24th, but the video indicated it was April 24th of 2020. He said that interview was conducted with Lieutenant Robert Malone. He said that because of COVID, the constitutional rights were read to Mr. Mills, and he did not allow Mr. Mills an opportunity to initial or sign the constitutional rights form. It was read to him, and he asked Mr. Mills if he understood his rights and if he were willing to waive his rights and speak with Detective Kraszewski and Lieutenant Malone. Mr. Mills agreed. No promises or threats were made to Mr. Mills, and the court received People's Number 1, which was the audio and video interview that was conducted on April 24, 2020. The court listened to approximately 40-50 minutes in which Mr. Mills and the detective and lieutenant spoke about various occasions where the defendant was in Southwest Detroit and had some contact with women that were prostitutes, particularly in the area of Casper and Cypress in the city of Detroit. The defendant places himself at the location and discusses basically having picked up a young lady who tried to rob him, take his wallet and everything, and that he chased her in an SUV, she was struck and that he came back to the location on more than one occasion after she was located at that scene. Based on the testimony that was presented by the prosecution, Mr. Mills having been charged with homicide, murder, first degree, premeditated, and assault on a pregnant individual causing miscarriage / stillbirth.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes,
I hate to interrupt and give the court answer to the prosecution, but I noted, and I was addressing count 2, the autopsy of the physician was manner of death was indeterminate. I noted, because of that, there may be a problem with the count 2 assault on a pregnant individual causing miscarriage, stillbirth. I point that out to the court and indicate that I believe there's insufficient testimony on the record by Mr. Mills over on that particular count.
all right, thank you. So as to count 1, homicide, murder, first degree, premeditated, the court believes the people have met their burden in proving by a probable cause standard that the defendant did deliberately, with intent to kill and with premeditation, kill one Miss Melinda Salazar. Ms. Chaffone, do you want to address the response to count 2?
Yes, please. Judge, that could be for a trier of fact. I believe that the testimony in this case and the evidence presented in this case is sufficient to show that this was a murder. Not only do we have the way in which the body was left there at the scene, deceased on the sidewalk, hit multiple times. We also have this statement from Mr. Mills that he did hit her on purpose. And that was intentional, and it was retribution for her having stolen, according to him, for her having stolen his wallet. I mean, that by definition would be a murder. While the ME's office may not have characterized it as a homicide, they're going based off of what they see, which is a potential vehicle accident or something of that nature. Just because the medical examiner doesn't qualify it as a homicide or a murder doesn't make it less of a murder.
All right, so then the question that the court would have as it relates to count 2 is, does the defendant have to know at the time that Ms. Salazar was indeed a child?
There's no intent that he needs to have here, Judge. He just has to intend to make the assault upon this person, and she has to be pregnant at the time.
Okay. All right, thank you. As to count 2, court does believe, based on the testimony, that the defendant did in fact intentionally make an assault with intent to commit the crime of murder upon Ms. Salazar, and she was pregnant at the time, which resulted in a miscarriage or stillbirth of a fetus. So the court, although the medical examiner's office does find the autopsy or the manner of death to be determined based upon the testimony presented or the interview presented by Mr. Mills, the court is satisfied by the probable cause standard that count 2 has been met. So he will be found over on both charges contained in the information.
Thank you, Judge.
So, arraignment is going to be a week and a day from today, January 19th at 9 a.m.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. How many witnesses do you have on the third case?
Just 2, Judge. An evidence technician who should be fairly quick, and then Detective Kimball who extracted the video. And the video, I want to say, the portions that I seek to admit is probably less than 15 minutes of video. I'm going to admit a larger section of two about 15, 20-minute videos. But if the court would like, and the court could view it at its own time, if the court would like, I just want to kind of zoom in to a specific point in time that's pretty short.
Are you guys available to come back tomorrow?
I would be available to come back tomorrow, yes.
Good morning.
Yes, tomorrow at 9, 9:15-ish.
That would work for the people, Judge.
It would not work for me. I have KCC at 9 a.m. and at 11 o'clock I have a live CSC2 exam in Livonia.
What about tomorrow afternoon at 1:30?
I should be available provided Livonia does not run over.
Judge, can I just have Detective Kraszewski run out and check with the officers? I didn't even think of that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Your Honor, after speaking with both officers, they were both available tomorrow at 1:30.
All right. So we will conduct the preliminary examination on the case ending in 808 tomorrow afternoon at 1:30.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Would the court allow me to appear via Zoom again, Judge?
Yes, you have, and for the record, Ms. Chiffon is appearing via Zoom because she is in quarantine and she's been exposed to COVID. So yes, ma'am, you'll be able to appear over Zoom.
So see the door.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.